All right. Woo. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Super excited to talk today about the Hall of Fame WebAR experience powered by CameraKit. So just want to get a quick poll. I see a lot of familiar faces, which is great, but just for those that I haven't met yet, by show of hands, how many of you have gotten the chance to try the AWE Hall of Fame WebAR experience outside? Okay. See about 50%. Okay, great. And then by show of hands, just how many of you guys know about Snap's CameraKit SDK? Okay, a lot. Fantastic. Okay, so I can kind of breeze through the quick overview. So maybe I'll start just with the Hall of Fame experience. So AWE, as you may have heard in the keynote, it's a platform to celebrate the pioneers that have made significant contributions to the AR/VR industry. So what they wanted to do to celebrate this year was to put together sort of the Hollywood star experience where you have it on the sidewalk and you kind of learn about each pioneer. And so this is what we've replicated. We've worked with Hart in building that experience, leveraging CameraKit to power that WebAR, to be able to look up the pioneer that's showcased on the star, pull up their image, pull up their biography, and just learn more for all of the guests that are attending. So that's a little bit about the Hall of Fame experience. And if you haven't tried it, highly recommend it. It's just out in the front. There's a QR code just to get started. No app needed to download, just internet, and you'll get to experience what you see here on the right. And really quick, for just to make sure for those that aren't aware of CameraKit, CameraKit is our cross-platform SDK that allows you to deliver AR directly to your mobile apps, both iOS and/or Android, and also to your websites. So the motivation really for CameraKit is to enable you and allow you to create scalable and innovative AR experiences that expands beyond Snapchat, right? So you can still create AR experiences and deliver to the amazing Snapchatters. And if you want, you can also reach the end users that are on mobile apps and also websites. And really the value that we've seen from our partners they tell us that it helps increase traffic, user acquisition, increases time spent in integration, it improves the customer or user experience, and most importantly, it increases engagement and retention that we've seen even with the AWE Hall of Fame experience. So there's a ton of WebAR solutions that can achieve these values. So why specifically CameraKit as an option? Well, 4 key things. CameraKit is a multi-platform SDK, so you can distribute to Snapchat, you can distribute to mobile, Android and web, and iOS. And we also have Lens Studio, our visual editor. There are now over 3.5 million lenses built to date that you can leverage to distribute to your mobile apps and websites. A very, very strong and growing developer ecosystem that you can collaborate with, that you can connect with for support. And then most importantly, you also have the Snapchat community that's also growing with currently 422 million DAU. So that's just a quick overview. I definitely wanted to spend more time to kind of have a chat with Hart to get his perspective on building the Hall of Fame experience, just to learn from a developer perspective what that's like so that you can consider, is this a solution that might be good for you? What are the pros and cons? We'll have a little bit of a Q&A at the end so that you guys can ask Hart some tough questions and see, and learn a little bit more about the SDK if you haven't tried it. So let's go ahead and start bringing up Hart on stage. So to introduce the person who has been able to bring this project to life, he is the CEO and founder of 2020 CV, a company that specializes in the creation of AR experiences using machine learning and computer vision. He has been creating software for 30 years with a self-taught background and a passion for bringing new ideas to life. 2020 CV was founded in 2017 and is backed by Mark Cuban. Please, if we can give a round of applause to invite Hart up to stage. Woo!
Hello. I picked the most inconvenient chair to get in here. Okay, I'm out of breath.
All good. Welcome, Hart.
Thank you.
All right. I always wanted to do that intro. So, Hart, just for the audience to get to better know you, could you share what inspired your journey into just AR development and highlight sort of the key milestones that have led you to where you are today. And maybe at the end, if you can, would love to just know a little bit about this Mark Cuban story, because I think maybe some people in the audience thinking Shark Tank, but maybe that's not your story, but please share.
No, I'll actually start there because that's kind of where my journey in AR began. So in 2017, I had just left a previous startup I had founded and was kind of between jobs, deciding if I wanted to go back to a 9-to-5 or start another company. And I saw at the time there was a lot of positions for computer vision engineers. So I started doing some kind of CV projects as a way to maybe put those in a portfolio and apply for a job if I couldn't start a company out of it. And ended up building this kind of crude hand puppet, virtual hand puppet that would like throw up when you open the mouth. So there's like projectile vomiting out of this hand puppet. And I posted it on the internet, like sites like Reddit and stuff, and see what the reaction was, and nobody really cared or responded in any way. I didn't have the social media following that I do today, which isn't that big even now, but I had like nothing then. So it was more difficult. And towards the end of that project, as like kind of like a last-ditch effort, I decided to send a video of it to a couple VCs and see if I could get the reaction. And one VC I knew that would respond to cold emails was Mark Cuban. I didn't know his email address. I just Googled it and looked it up, and I didn't know if I had the right one or not, but I sent an email to him. And to my surprise, he responded within about 1 minute. And he said, he said word for word, he said, I didn't ask him for any money or anything. And he said, what are you looking for, and what do I get? And after a couple back and forth emails, we eventually worked out a deal. And so I've kind of been working with him since that point. He's a fairly hands-off investor, but I do send him emails every couple weeks to get an update, and he provides advice where he can. So that's where it started.
Yeah.
And since then, I've built my own iPhone apps, everything from virtual lightsabers to Snapchat for dogs. And those didn't gain enough traction to justify continuing working on them. So eventually, though, Snap reached out to me in 2020, right before the pandemic, and they saw the machine learning work I had been doing and asked me if I wanted to be one of the first partners for Snap ML, and that's kind of how I got started in my relationship with Snapchat. And since then, I've built so many lenses I can't remember. So
Yeah.
it's been a great 4 years with them.
And you're still building like a lot of the hand tracking experiences leveraging.
Yeah, that was always like my focus, was building stuff around tracking your hands. Some of them outside of that, but a lot of them, I don't know, I thought that given my background with an understanding of how to build experiences around it, it was just a good idea to play with, and Snap provided excellent 3D hand tracking on top of that, so it was a
Wow.
natural fit.
Yeah, that's great. Well, any aspiring AR entrepreneurs out there definitely can, we can start with the hand puppet, try to reach out to Mark and see if we can.
You can send him his email is mcuban@gmail.com if you want to send him an email. You can do it right now if you want to. He probably won't respond unless you like send him a legitimate email, but this isn't private information. You can look it up on Google.
Okay.
Just most people don't for whatever reason, but you can find it, and he publicly even posts it sometimes in different places.
Oh.
And that's all he does is communicates by email. He gets about 1,000 emails every day, and somehow responds to most of them. And I don't know how he does it, because I get one email and I'm like, all right, workday's done.
Okay, so now you've kind of built this experience, you shared, how you started, and let's talk about the project. This is how, you were able to build out this amazing Hall of Fame AR experience. Could you, I guess, describe for the audience the WebAR project you built for them using Lens Studio and Camera Kit? Maybe start by discussing the client's requirements to kind of just see, what was presented to you, and then sort of your creative approach or your thinking process of how you delivered what is out there now today.
Sure. So they came to me with the concept of kind of how everything was going to be laid out. So I just had a blank canvas to design off, and my initial thought was that they had this portraits of each creator or Hall of Fame member in the on their page. So I was thinking of some way to use those, and I thought it would be fun to make them somewhat animated, like a Harry Potter, framed picture on the wall that comes to life. So I ran all 100 images through it's basically the same model that they use for deep nostalgia on ancestor.com or one of those sites that kind of subtly animates the photo to give them face movements and mouth movements and eye movements. And I thought that kind of would help bring this project to life.
Yeah. And I guess like just maybe setting more context for the audience, taking a step back, like I did have concerns with this sort of proposal. So when AWE, gave us the proposal, we looked at it, and it was, to your point, the requirements were technically feasible. This wasn't something that was unique that Camera Kit can only do, right? There was other WebAR solutions that could do marker image tracking. But the real challenge or concerns I had was three things. It was efficiency, performance, and timeline. And I'll break those three down. It was, for efficiency, they were asking for 101 Pioneer assets to be, in AR, both
Right.
their headshots and their biography information. Like I was concerned that, my initial thinking was, oh crap, you have to build 100 different lenses, right? For each one different
Right.
QR. I was like, it's a logistical nightmare. And then to add on to that, the performance to stack all of that, right?
Yeah.
I was concerned it'd be laggy, it'd be poor. It's also in WebAR limitations.
Yeah.
And then finally, the timeline. It was the target timeline of this proposal ask was within a month, right? And so I guess like, let's break down how you solve for each. Like in terms of efficiency, like walk us through like what your thought process or approach was in just putting this all under one AR lens. I didn't even know that was possible.
Well, they didn't pay me enough to build 101 lenses, so there's no way I was going that route. If they had, I might have considered it, but no, I just work smarter, not harder, I guess.
Yeah.
So I tried to figure out a way to cram everything into this 6 megabyte or 8 megabyte limit of Lens Studio, and we actually got it 101 videos plus all the text and images in there in under 6 megabytes. So I was surprised.
Amazing. And I guess like to the second challenge of like performance, how was the performance of the AR lens? Like, was there a trade-off to be made when considering doing it all under one? The size of the project you mentioned was 6 megabytes. Like, what were your kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, so when you're dealing with WebAR, you're going to take a slight performance hit from native development, and my main concern was just getting it to run smoothly enough so that it wouldn't feel jittery when you're tracking around the image. And so we tried a few different options in terms of world tracking and marker tracking to get the right mix and balance of speed and efficiency, and we ended up just settling with the marker tracking and using that, and it worked well, so we didn't really have any problems there.
Amazing. And then from a timeline perspective, the third one, walk me through kind of the timeline to accomplish this when you were presented this proposal. Did you were asked to leverage the Snap AR platform, you had Lens Studio, Camera Kit, all of these things under your scope. Like, did you feel confident in being able to deliver it with that timeline, or was there some sort of pressure concerns of like some uncertainty areas?
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually overconfident to a fault. If somebody asks me, I'll be, it'll be done tomorrow, no problem. But it didn't end up taking about, I'd say, 4 to 5 weeks to fully develop. So yeah, it was good that we had a little bit of buffer time to get this out the door. And yeah, I mean, pretty much everything fell into place within the first couple weeks, but there was a couple issues we had to iron out over the last few that took a little longer. So
yeah, did you, I guess like with building on Snap AR platform for this project, did you feel that the tool made it easier to solve these specific 3 challenges in terms of efficiency, performance, timeline, compared to, you don't have to name the tools, but like in other things that you've developed with?
yeah, I mean, for one thing, the parity with Lens, the parity between Web and Snapchat is very close right now, so I didn't have to spend a lot of time building custom solution for anything. Pretty much anything I could do within Snapchat that I needed, I was able to do on the web. So that was definitely a big time saver in terms of conserving time for building out this lens. And yeah, it just made it simple for me, I guess, overall.
Yeah, and the beauty of sort of this lens that you've created that's now out on web, it is also then possible to distribute that for Snapchatters that are
Right.
here.
Yeah. It actually exists on Snapchat. It's just hidden, so you can't find it unless I send it to you.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. So I guess just, let's see, we just doing a time check here. Maybe I'll do 2 more questions, and then we'll ask the audience, open the floor. So just looking under the hood really quick, there are 2 key components in this whole project. There's the AR lens, and then there's the web scope. I guess, could you talk about how easy or difficult was it to just use Lens Studio to build the lens? Would love to just hear, any key features that stood out that made it, based on your sentiment with the experience.
Yeah, I think the most important feature for this lens was the marker tracking. And, originally we were going to have like a different marker for each star on the floor, and that would have also been fairly complicated to work out. So what we ended up doing was using OCR, optical character recognition, to just read the name on the thing, on the star, and then look up the person based on that. And that ended up working much better than having 101 different markers.
Right. And then second question for this, for the second component, which is how easier was it or difficult was it to get started with the Camera Kit Web SDK?
So I was new to it, so there was a small learning curve, but pretty much out of the box, it just, they have examples on how to build a basic application and get your lens launched. So it was fairly easy to get it working out of the box. The only things that took me time were stylizing it and making it full screen and making sure that all the elements looked not too squashed on different phone screens. So yeah, it was pretty easy to use right out of the box, I would say.
All right, love to hear it. I guess just to wrap up my set of questions, and we'll open the floor. I guess, so in the audience, like for this specific conference, we have a lot of developers, we have a lot of companies, some that have been developing in AR for years, some that are completely new, that are aspiring to do what you're doing. And maybe they aren't aware of the Snap AR platform. There's a ton of options out there. So my question is, what sort of advice would you give to developers, companies here, considering using Snap AR platform for their web or mobile AR projects and for Snapchatters as well?
Just do it. No, honestly, I think Snap provides the best suite of tools for web and native development in terms of building an augmented reality experience. One of the things that was awesome for me, coming from an iPhone development background, was it used to take me 3 to 4 months to get an iPhone app out the door. And then when I started using Lens Studio, I could prototype those same ideas in like a week or even a couple days. So it was great to just have that speed of development, rapid prototyping, and all the tools that come with Lens Studio.
Fantastic. All right, thank you, Hart. That's it for my set of questions. I would love to open up the floor to anyone here.
Anybody, him.
I would love anyone but Joe. But I would just want to make a note. Please prioritize questions for Hart. We have just a short amount of time, but leverage his expertise. I'll be available outside as well for any questions to assist you.
Hello, Hart.
Yes,
How you doing?
Very well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Quick question. You mentioned earlier that you were dealing with kind of like a blank slate, like blank canvas to work with. Naturally, from a client perspective, they will want different things. That will lead to scope creep.
Right.
How did you deal with that?
Charge them more money.
Sure.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Any questions for Hart? Oh, we got one in the audience.
This better be good. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I am curious. 101. How did you test to make sure it was all good to go live?
Here's the funny thing is, like, I was just testing it about 30 minutes ago to make sure none of them were broken, and they all worked. But part of that was building, I mentioned the optical character recognition. That was the most important piece in terms of differentiating between the stars. And I built that piece of it to give it a little bit of buffer in terms of error, like if it just basically scored the words and it would add up a score and choose the closest name to that. So I'm not sure, to be honest, if some of the words were misread by the OCR, but it seemed to work on everyone I used. So
That's smart.
yeah,
Yeah, I's and L's every time.
yeah.
And so then another follow-up question for me: if you did find an error, like what was the process for updating the app, like on site, in case if there's something catastrophic?
Fortunately, there was only one issue when I arrived yesterday, and it was pretty simple, like a one-line comment out the code type of thing. But in terms of testing it at home, I kind of just printed out stars at home and was testing between them to simulate the environment, and that worked well enough to assume it would work here as well.
Thank you.
I think we have time for one more question, and then we'll be available off stage as well.
Yeah, I was just wondering what were some of the things that you were looking for when you finally got to the real location to make sure that you were robustly, testing, and any tips you have for just those location-based experiences when you don't get there till like the day of.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, and there's some unknown variables. I think the biggest one for me was I had no idea exactly how far apart the stars would be spaced. So the idea was that when you jump from one star to the next, it would kind of measure the distance, and if it exceeded a certain threshold, then it would start looking up a new name. So that was my main concern in terms of working in an unknown location. But other than that, I knew that like individually the stars should work as expected because they sent me the images they were using well ahead of time.
All right. Well, thank you, Hart. For those that haven't tried it, highly recommend it. It's just out in the front door, red carpet. There's a QR code you guys can scan, or you could just type snap-camera-kit.com, and that'll open up the experience. And if you guys are interested, I guess the slides are closed. You guys can apply for Camera Kit access. It's just on our Snap AR website. Just fill out a form, and then you should be good to go. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.